I am a feminine embodiment coach and a business mentor, and I specialize in helping established women in business who are highly ambitious really switch out of feeling chronically stressed, burnt out, and overwhelmed to feeling a greater sense of freedom, peace, and pleasure in their lives and in their businesses as they continue to scale their 6+ figure business. So that's what my work is all about, and in terms of who I help.
Great. And how long have you been doing that for now?
I've been coaching for 8+ years, I think, since I moved abroad. So I moved to Hong Kong, where I started my coaching business. Prior to that, I worked in marketing, and I have an honours degree in psychology and a master's of marketing, but I'd always been interested in positive psychology. So I went into coaching, and then that kind of morphed from, life coaching into business coaching and consulting. And then I've brought in this other feminine embodiment modality. So it just rounds things out in terms of mindset and more of the somatic body work that I do.
Great. And then could you share, I guess, because you mentioned there are different modalities, right, that you're working with and you're combining them. Could you sort of walk us through those different modalities and how you see them, how you use them, I guess, to help women to heal, transform, and thrive?
Perfect. So a lot of my clients come to me. Often they've done a lot of their own personal development work, and maybe they've worked with a coach and done a lot of mindset work, or they've worked with a therapist, but they feel like things aren't shifting or changing and they're not getting the results that they desire, whether it's in their life or in their business. And this is where the feminine embodiment modality that I work with really comes into play. So it's a trauma-informed modality. I'm a trauma-informed coach. What we're looking at is we're going deeper into the body and working with our nervous system and essentially like unraveling any tension, stress, trauma from the body. So essentially what happens is that your nervous system is able to move into a regulated state. So we're not in fight or flight continually, or a freeze or a fawn response. And we're in a more regulated place. And then from there, what we want to do is we want to expand your capacity within your nervous system to be able to work from a place of peace, ease, and pleasure, so you can welcome in more. So essentially you can do less and you can receive more. So my work really is about, it's more feminine in the fact that we want to soften. We're not all about pushing and hustling. It's not all about strategy. A lot of the women that come to me are, as I said before, high achievers, and they have built really successful businesses from hard work, hustle, grind, and then they've burnt out. And they're in this fight or flight state continuously, and they don't know how to shut it off. So the idea of working from a place of relaxation, from weaving pleasure into their daily life and their business, and the fact that things could be easy just feels very, very foreign to them. And it doesn't matter how much mindset work they do or talking about it in therapy, it doesn't shift things. So, and that was the case for me. I had to really do more somatic practices and go into the body, go into the depths of the feminine first, to then work out the direction. And then all of this is coupled with mindset work. So I'm certified life coach as well. I have a psychology degree, and also with the energetics. So I'm really, I'm a bit woo-woo. I'm into, all things spiritual and like modern day magic. So it is coupling the mindset work, the somatics and the embodiment, and spirituality, and tapping into our energetic body so that, we can move into a state of healing and then thriving. And it's not purely all about survival, being in survival mode all the time.
Yeah, well, and so how, what would that look like if someone was to come and see you and say, gosh, please help me. I am feeling burnt out. And, perhaps I think a lot of the women that I come across are people who've maybe lost their spark, the spark for what they're doing because of that feeling, right? That feeling of being burnt out. So what would it look like for them coming to work with you on a more, how would they apply? some of the modalities that you're working with?
Yeah, really great question. So in terms of what would happen, first, we would set some embodied goals. So often we have goals, in our head that's all attached to status, what we think we should be achieving. But I assess, what is your actual capacity right now in terms of your nervous system, where you're at. And I look at what state that you usually in. So a lot of people might be in a fight response in terms of their business. Like everything is very time sensitive, hustle, they're like pushing, or they might be in a flight response. So it just feels too much and they kind of want to dump and run, or a freeze response where they procrastinate a lot. They might have a lot of ideas, they know they have to do it, but they just can't move, or a fawn response where they're just constantly people pleasing, giving. And they're very, very basic, and it can be nuanced, and we can have many different responses kind of coupled together. But then I get a sense of, okay, where you're at and what we need to do from a somatic point of view, because there's all different somatic practices, how we can strategically weave pleasure, so that embodied sense of and that felt sense of pleasure, into your day. And we do different embodiment practices. And then look at the stories that you're telling yourself. Like, what are those limiting beliefs? What are those narratives that you've created? Like that, business has to be hard. We have to work hard before we get the reward, all those things. So that's from the initial assessment. And then in terms of how the feminine embodiment practice works, the somatics works, is pretend if you've got, if your body is a river, and, continually we've got energy, life force energy flowing through it. But, throughout our life and even throughout our day, things happen. And they call them, big T traumas or little T traumas. And a big T trauma could be, the loss of a loved one, a divorce, an international move, a major health concern, these big things. And if you picture a big T trauma as like a big boulder, a big rock that blocks the river. And then in our everyday life, we're having these little T traumas, these things where we might, lose our keys, or we've had a really stressful client, or all things. So these are like smaller rocks that go into the river. And as you can imagine, over time, if we're not clearing these rocks, whether a big boulder or a rock, that life force energy really becomes a trickle rather than a beautiful flowing river. And in terms of our nervous system, it's like all of the tension is being held in the body, and we move into a state of contraction. And at a point, we're just going to explode or crumple over and, wither away. And the modality of the feminine embodiment work is all about how do we clear these boulders from our body? How do we release the tension and the trauma, the stress that's held in our body on a continual basis? So it's kind of like just continually having a shower in a way for our body. In terms of meditation, it helps to clear the mind. This really helps to clear clean our body, but keep our nervous system in a regulated state. But also what I do, which is different to other somatic coaches, is we don't want to just be in a state of regulation. We want to move into a state of thriving. So how can things get better and better and open up our capacity of our nervous system to receive what it is that we desire, whether it is a better level of client, more cash flow, better relationships in our daily life from a place of ease, where we're not having to work our tails off and hustle and grind and give and give and give. It's more of how can we move into a state of receptivity.
Wow. I love your analogy of the river. That puts it so nicely, right? That I can really picture it, like life force flowing through it. And so for instance, because as you know, with a life redesign, we're aiming to be there as a resource to support women who are looking for this kind of support. So what would you say, for instance, to someone who, I think there's so many women who know they need the help, they need to reach out, but it's how do I actually do it? What could kind of help them make that move to reach out to you and really just do something to help themselves? Because I think that's where a lot of women are at. So they know they need the help, but they're just not reaching out to us. They're not reaching out to the amazing coaches and practitioners. What could help them sort of kind of go, yes, okay, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I feel like, something that I often say to myself or clients is like, nothing changes if nothing changes. And,
Mm.
the decision that you make today to reach out for help or support is going to impact tomorrow and 1 year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time, whatever. Like, and do you want to sit there and 5 years' time still be in the same place, still being in survival, still not forward in a way that you desire? So you really have to make the change, and you get a choice. Like, it's up to you. And the power is in the decision of, yes, I want change. And I'm going to take action, because we can make the decision, but we have to take action.
Yes. Okay. Oh, well, thank you. And just one last question. In terms of how you work, do you offer programs, or can people reach out for, is like one-off sessions? How does it work?
Yeah, so I offer private mentoring, so one-on-one sessions, which is between like a 4 and a 6 month duration. And then I also have a high-level group coaching program called Relaxed and Rich, and that is over a 12-month period. So it's like high-level masterminding where, we're high-achieving women in business who are looking at doing business in a different way. And there is one-on-one coaching within that group coaching container as well.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you
And
for having me.
yeah,